Hello everyone, this is Yuan from Shanghai. Back in 2011, Tongji University and University of Southern California started this event, aiming to build a non-profit global platform for research, education, addressing the role of digital in architecture and design. For the past 10 years, we hosted annual series of workshops, lectures, conferences, exhibitions, and published a number of books. We dreamed, learned, and talked about the future for the past 10 years. But now we are facing an uncertain future. The uncertainty of pandemic has shown us its influence on our daily lives, but also the endless potential of digital technology in education. Many schools have resorted to online teaching due to the inconvenience of social distancing. And it is definitely a new learning experience for most. The new environment has also reminded us about all the knowledge that comes with the digital world. There are forms of paradigms, toolpaths, and programs made by researchers, scholars, and even students around the world, uploaded directly to the digital platforms, bypassing the many traditional reviewing processes. These new norms are making now the time of restructure our knowledge and education system. A fragmented and disparate pattern of knowledge generation is emerging, and a versatile digital platform for shared open source learning, ready to receive new information compatible with traditional institutions. A new knowledge collective must be created. And from this idea emerges Digital Futures World.
Digital Futures World was a special celebration for the 10th anniversary of Digital Futures. It is contained free 24 hours and 7 days online global festival of workshops and panel discussions involving some of the top architects and educators in the world, which took place from the 26th June to the 4th July 2020. It was probably the largest online architecture festival ever staged. It consisted of 80 workshops exploring all aspects of digital domain, and over 30 lectures and panel discussions, which attracted 12,295 applications from 33 countries, and was followed by an online audience of over 500,000 viewers. Importantly, all workshops, lectures, and panel discussions were available for free. We have successfully invited some of the most famous architects, theorists, and academics in the world, including Peter Eisenman, Achim Menges, Philip Brock, Tom Mann, Wolf Prix, Mark Burry, Roland Snooks, Bernard Stiegler, Yan-Song Ma, Patrick Schumacher, Sanford Quinter, Nader Tarani, Hasim Sakis, Mi-Jin Yoon, Jenny Sabin, Arati Marcopolo, Bob Shell, and Matthew Thompson for lectures, talks, and various activities. In the past 10 years, Digital Futures has evolved from a local event to a global phenomenon. However, due to the current COVID-19 pandemic, the annual workshop in Shanghai has to migrate online, which opened up possibilities for more international participants and attract instructors from 91 institutions in 33 countries. This year marks a new high for application numbers in Digital Futures event. The applicants come from 71 countries, all continents, 1,057 institutions. Among the 8,920 applicants, 7,329 are current students attending various schools around the world, such as Tongji University, UC Bartlett, RMIT, and many others. These applications are, as you see, from all over the world, all connected on this online platform by Digital Futures 2020. Thanks to all the instructors, students, and organizers who contributed so much to the initiative, we have evolved from a small group of people to a truly global event that can invite some of the most prominent educators in the field of architecture, that can offer the students great opportunities that cannot even imagine years before. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate having a chance to thank all the contributors to this, the workshop instructors, the team that organized it. Without you, this would not have been possible, literally would not have been possible. I feel like the pandemic has brought out the worst and the best in humanity. We've seen people fighting over toilet rolls and things in shops. We've seen nations fighting over PPE. At the same time, we've seen people coming together in a way that I never would have imagined. We've seen architects, professors of architecture, 3D printing masks for the community, and we've seen this extraordinary event. This could not have happened without your participation, also without the students signing up. AI has been a major topic in this area. Never before has there been an event, to my knowledge anyway, where there have been 12 workshops on AI, where there have been, I think, 5 talks or panel discussions about AI, and also a theory workshop about AI. Involving, I would just say, for my theory workshop, involving Sanford Quinter, Antoine Picon, and Marie Castrotta, and myself. Actually, we don't teach there anymore, but all of us have taught at Harvard. This was an incredible high-level thing that's never happened before, which was remarkable. And with several hundred students watching, which was also remarkable. But I just want to reflect on the moment which Philip mentioned. In fact, there were 2 events. Back in February, of course, we had discussed this whole event, and we decided to cancel it. We thought it was impossible. Then in April, and we're not talking 3 months, Philip, we're talking 2 months. It's only been 2 months in the making. We had a review, and I was joined by Philip Yuan and Wan Yuhe in China, and by Gilles Retz in London. And suddenly we began to realize that actually what we've been talking about the future, about the digital as the future, was indeed the case. The digital was a future, the digital was here. We were suddenly discovering that not only could you hold these online reviews, online talks, but also you could order your groceries online in a way that we could before, but never bothered. We could pay with contactless payment and so on. It was clear that the future was digital, and the future was already here. The following week, as Philip mentioned, I attended a review of Matthias Del Campo at the University of Michigan, where there are more than 1,000 people who were taking part. And we began to realize that actually, far from being an impediment, the domain of the digital could open up a whole new realm of exploration. And because we believe in the future, we seized upon that opportunity. And it was actually, I can recall the moment when I thought up the idea. And it was, for those of you in London, you'll know what it's like when you go to a pub one evening and you've had a few beers and you come up with a crazy idea that only happens in the pub. Well, normally, of course, you go home and then you forget about it and nothing happens. This time it stuck. It stuck, and in a way that I never expected, but it stuck largely because of the team, the support team, who also believed in this dream, and it was a dream. A dream maybe tinged with some nightmare on occasion, but it was a dream. I myself, the night before the opening, I couldn't sleep. I thought to myself, what have I done? What have I done? What's happened? But then I began to realize that it was actually working. I mean, let's be clear, some things were not working. It was a bit like those of you who've ever designed buildings, and many of you have designed buildings, it was a bit like that. You can never predict what's going to happen. There's always something that surprises you. Some of those surprises are very negative, and some of the surprises are very positive. But there's always something that escapes whatever you can envision, whatever you can plan. And indeed, some of these things that we imagined did not happen. We speculated maybe we could have a discussion with Elon Musk. Impossible. We speculated that maybe we could have a discussion with the International Space Station. That didn't happen. But what did happen was really the most astonishing aspect that could happen at all. After 2 days, one of the workshop instructors said to me, I can't believe it. It's working. It's working. And my discussions with Sanford Quinter were really interesting. And Sanford noticed it. Sanford said, he made this comment to me, you started something. You started something. This is the biggest event of the pandemic. Architectural Burning Man. Now, I don't know, I mean, that's actually, I don't know if you know Burning Man, but it's one of these kind of popular moments that arises in the desert, a kind of music festival, an amazing thing in itself. And I myself was thinking more actually about the Venice Biennale, which grew like our thing from humble beginnings, but has reached a certain threshold point whereby everybody wants to be involved. Everybody wants to be involved, and they don't mind flying to Venice and paying for their air flight and paying for their accommodation just to be part of this momentous organization. In some ways, I think we might have reached that threshold in terms of securing a future where everyone wants to be part of it, and it can only happen if everyone wants to be part of it. But there's something else that's extraordinary that happened, and that is maybe we've made some step towards democratizing education itself. We've had several discussions, including one with Nadia Terani, Hashim Sarkis, Ila Berman, and Eva Franch, about the future of the education. Clearly, things are changing. And this, I see it as an experiment. This experiment, testing the water, seeing what can happen, has succeeded. We've proved something can happen, but not what we thought we were proving was going to happen. We've proved something else. Now, it's going to take a while before it sinks in. I am absolutely exhausted, as I'm sure all of you are and all the students are. But when the dust has settled, when we think through this, I think we'll discover that something truly extraordinary has happened. And it's not just going online. It's not just getting bigger. It's actually a transformative model that could be applied to the whole of education. So I'm hoping that in some ways we can try and transcend that, the barriers, and open education up genuinely to all the world and to all the students in the world, regardless of how wealthy they are. So I just wanted to thank you, because this could never have happened without you. It could never have happened without the organizing team, and I want to thank them all again, and Philip, but especially those three special people. But it could never have happened without you, and it could never have happened without the students. Philip is always taking, really assiduously analyzing the numbers and things. I think we need to assiduously analyze and study the impact that this had on education itself. So all I can say is thank you. And I want to say also that this is not the end. Churchill famously said in the Second World War, this is not the end, it's not even the beginning of the end, but is the end of the beginning. And I feel that this is the case. And I feel that we've established a model, a platform for sharing knowledge, and sharing is the key term there, that maybe we don't even have to wait until next summer to activate again. Maybe this is a platform we need to keep open continuously for the dissemination of knowledge, for the sharing of knowledge for free throughout the world. It genuinely has been a world event, Digital Futures World. So let's see. Thank you. And I hope that we can draw upon your generosity again in the future. To my mind, and I see this in the healthcare situation in the States, where so many people don't have access to healthcare. These things should be a right. People should all be able to access this kind of thing. And I think we've shown that that is possible. So let's hope that we can continue this model. Let's hope we can continue this sharing of knowledge. And let's hope we can to really realize the potential of this. We can see it as a fundamental point, a shift and change, not just Burning Man, but a kind of Black Lives Matter of education to some extent, which is democratizing things and opening things up to the underprivileged people across the world. So thank you. 谢谢.
Hello, everyone. My name is Melissa Goldman, and I am the Fabrication Lab Manager for the University of Virginia School of Architecture. It's my distinct honor and pleasure to be in conversation with Philip and Neil today. And we're pre-recording this session, but I know that you'll probably be in discussion with them throughout the week at the conference. And so thank you both for taking the time today to have this conversation. And firstly, congratulations on the award. This has been such an amazing and prolific event over a decade. Congratulations to you both and to your team for getting through this year's Digital Futures World and just exponentially growing the program as the opportunity arose. And so to kind of set this up, you've talked quite a bit about the future of digital education, the democratization of education, and kind of what a model that Digital Futures could really bring to other academic institutions or programs. And so, today there's kind of the Digital Futures that has been for the last 9 years, and then there's been the Digital Futures World that kind of arose this year out of that opportunity. And so maybe there are parallel discussions and there's 2 answers for every question, and that's okay. So I want to start, and maybe this is one where there is those parallel answers, is for both of you, how has the vision of Digital Futures evolved? What does futures in that name, what did it mean as you were starting this? And what does it mean now that you've gone globally and you've kind of grown the program? And where do those both, what has been building and where do those both go? And that can be for both of you.
I mean, do you want me to chip in? My view is that, and this is kind of a broader view, and that is that as architects, everything we do is predicated on the future. We are dealing with the future. Every design we do could potentially be built in the future. And yet I find actually that the whole architectural discipline is quite nostalgic. We have plenty of kind of history lectures and so on. And I used to be an historian. I was a translator of Alberti and so on. But I think it's important to really address the future in an imaginative way. And that seems to be missing from that. We see very few kind of initiatives that are addressing the future anyway. I think there are people like Liam Young who are always doing that the whole time. But that was really part of it. I think the word future, I mean, it appeared in many of our books, early books, and it's always been there as a kind of an agenda.
Mm. And have we achieved that future? I mean, or have you had those moments of achieving the future over this decade? And does that definition then change for you going forward?
Philip. I mean, go ahead.
Yeah. I think it's a very important moment. Exactly the 10 years ago, when I talked to Dean Ma, Qingyun Ma, and including New Leach, and then 10 years ago in Shanghai, it's a great time we're talking about the infrastructure system, how we organize the education, because the knowledge is booming, and how to engage the new knowledge into the architecture discipline. Architecture is a very long history-based tradition discipline, but actually the new knowledge is very important, it's booming. I think the ways I want to address in 2 different kind of background. The firstly, I think the future is not a certain things which should base on what we're doing. So the future is important to be present and important to be learning from each other. So I think the platform original concept is to invite the professors and educators. Their background maybe not only they can represent the best knowledge, but also they should have some special vision to give us new thinking to the future. I think workshop is a very important platform, and every year I think the people we invited is quite differently. But the most importantly is the platform give a special opportunity not only to the professors, but also to the students. They can learning from each other. I think it's very democracy ways how we define the new learning. I think the future is addressed into the learning process. I think the process is the future. And this is the first thing I want to mention. Secondly, I think the discipline has very strong new name is nostalgias, but I think it's still very important. Architecture is not totally 100% based in technology, but this is a special moment. Technology gave a very special opportunity or very special paradigm shift and background to architect discipline. So I'm very interested in how to integrate the new thinking, especially the new digital technology, which can give us a special influence in the thinking process, the thinking methodology. So I think the future based in this kind of infinite discussion or infinite communication. I think every year, although at the very beginning, very, very small, but this year is a special moment because COVID-19 gave us a very special pressure and how we can communicate with each other. So the digital futures maybe not only in the knowledge, but also in the ways how we exchange knowledge, how we communicate with each other, and how we make the big pyramid, although it's uncertain, but still, I think we are the future, and what we're doing is the future. So that's, I think, the fundamental vision, which I think I share with New Leach in the past 10 years. So yeah, that's my view.
Maybe I could add something to that. Actually, if we're honest about it, what we were doing in the past, we were using the word future, but in fact, we were dealing with what had already been done. I mean, very experimental work, but it had been done. We are now actually confronting the future, and it's a kind of unknown in many ways. All of a sudden, this new territory, the kind of the domain of the digital, and the fact that we can communicate in this way on this platform, which actually has a lot of affordances. It's really amazing. It's opened up before us, and it's not clear exactly what's going to emerge as such. We actually are addressing the future now. In the past, we weren't really dealing with it. So it's now, the question is, what do we do now? I mean, I think it's that's really the issue.
Well, in all of the conversations that you've had, I was rewatching some of the panel discussions on the future of education that you were having as part of Digital Futures with deans and other leaders in the field. And so what makes you the most hopeful or excited for what this next post-COVID digital future is? I mean, it might be the unknown, but given kind of the foundation that you've been building in these discussions and in the workshops and in kind of the conversations that are ongoing, what gets you excited about that, and what gives you the most hope for what the next stage is?
I think, yeah, please.
Well, I think we chanced upon something which really astonished us. I mean, we discovered that we could connect across the world and bring this message to everyone. And what I thought was interesting, I mean, some of those panels, they came out with almost the same message. There was a discussion about with Akim Menges, or he chaired the discussion with Areti and so on. And also there was a discussion that Nare Tirani chaired about the future of the university. And they both came up with the idea that actually this was a way of democratizing education. And that, to my mind, was the most astonishing thing. I mean, I mentioned several times before, when we opened up the first of the workshop that I was involved in with Sanford Quinter, Marika Trotter, and Antoine Picon, there was this student, and he said, "Hello, Professor, I'm in Lima, Peru." And it hit me then. And we were just looking at all these students we were reaching out to. And I think that was the most astonishing moment. We realized that we could spread the word and do it for free. I mean, that was the most amazing thing. So now we've got the platform, and we decided to continue that platform. The real question is, how can we have the most effect, and what can we do with this platform? But to my mind, fundamentally, it's about reaching out and embracing the world and bringing everyone together. I don't know if you were there last Saturday. We had a session on Egypt and the Middle East and Africa, sorry, and that was amazing. to parachute into Egypt. We weren't dealing with high technology at all, but to parachute into these communities and to see what was going on. And, I think we live in a divided world, especially the United States, and to be able to kind of like connect and bring people together in that way was really very, very special. So, I mean, I think we've opened up. It's almost like the Wild West. There is a new territory, a kind of terra incognita that's just developed, opened up, and what do we do with this? But it's a very, very exciting time as far as I'm concerned. I'm not quite sure what happens next, but it's going in the right direction. I would think I'd say.
Yeah, I very appreciate what's happening this year. And I think one thing I want to highlight is I think the knowledge, because of right now the systematic ways how we organize this kind of communication is based on the conference system like ACADIA, ACADFuture, this kind of platform. I think still it's great, especially ACADIA play very important leading roles in the world. Still we have a very big army globally. And especially very interesting the last few weeks when New organized the Digital Future Young, and every week I think the peak number for the audience goes to 8,000, and at least 2,000, 3,000. I think it's a great influence to the great audience, and a very special influence to the world. Because the population, you cannot imagine the population here and also in India and Egypt, not only in the States and Europe, we have a global, we need to have a global influence, this kind of new knowledge, digital technology, and computational thinking, this kind of influence to the global education. So I think Digital Future play very important roles. The elites and the very representative researchers, they have their vision to sharing their knowledge with the very big number audience, I think, which will help more people to get some very important learning feedback from the presentation. So I think Digital Future is we make a lot of discussion to the future of the organization of Digital Future, but I think that should be quite different to what's the original organization. I think it's new ways based on the post-COVID-19 and based on the new Zoom. This is a digital platform. I think the ways how we organize the knowledge learning process and how we sharing the knowledge with others, I think Digital Future probably give us a new new ways to all the educators and researchers.
Yeah, I just add that in a way that this is very much an emergent phenomenon. We had the platform, and then we thought, well, okay, let's keep it alive and do something. And the one thing we hadn't done was really to have these, what we had in the physical face-to-face in Shanghai, the Digital Future Young presentation. So we thought, well, let's do those. Then we thought, well, let's everyone see was going on in the other workshops. They only did one workshop. Let's go and see what's happening. So the instructors came in. Then we thought, well, let's have some keynotes so we can really raise the bar. And then we started doing these thematic sessions, which I think opened up a completely new agenda. Trying to focus on particular themes like the future of education, and we've got one on space architecture coming up on November the 14th, and that kind of opened up something, a kind of hybrid in some ways between a kind of like a TED talk, so it was free, and an issue of AD, an architectural design issue, but it made it free. ADs cost money, and we could also do it very quickly and turn it over very with much more efficiently. And now we're discovering we can kind of parachute into these places. So we had this one on Africa and so on, and we're going to go into the Amazon and look at the kind of deeper political questions about the Amazon, and then to other countries. So it's kind of an evolving thing, and we're just discovering what we can do as we go along. And let's see what it does. So we don't know.
Is it, it's been amazing to see how much content has come out of the big event. And I wonder kind of those who are coming back often for those conversations, if that becomes like a sustainable education track for them, where you also have individuals who are coming in. I mean, I had a lot of fun at the Digital Futures World workshop that I was in this summer. And what really amazed me was how many people would never have come to an academic conference or a workshop were there. And part of it was because people couldn't go anywhere. And part of it was because people were in industry or were students who wouldn't normally come to an event like this. And so I wonder what kind of the continuing content, if it's sustainable to produce, and if this becomes a more formal education track, or if it becomes a globally networked, sustained dialogue, and what you hope for that going forward.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. Actually, we make a lot of discussions, especially this year, globally. I think I want to highlight. This future is not, the leadership is not just new and me. I think right now it goes to a big numbers of people around the world, including Asia, Africa, America, and Australia. I think that's very important background. And secondly, I think still Digital Future will be organized and will be go to different kind of hierarchies. So we want to organize in different ways. I think firstly, Digital Future Young is a ways to attract more audience and a new, especially the students. They should be interested in the new technology. I think it's a ways to attract more young generation. And secondly, we are applying, or which should be start this year or the beginning of next year. We are doing a special magazine, and the name of it is Digital Futures. I think that will goes to extremely academic, and so we make a lot of discussion how to make the magazine very special. I think Neil and me, and also including a lot of very important figures globally, they will help us to set up a committee member to give a special brand review and a special guide to the special magazine. So that's a very academic publication platform. At the same time, I think we have different hierarchy because Digital Future Shanghai, for example, which we started in the last 9 years. And in the future, we will have different kind of location, and which could be a local platform for Digital Futures, maybe Digital Future LA or Digital Futures Singapore. That could be different platform. And what I'm doing right now, we set up a physical space we name as Digital Future Talks. So that is like not a very big, but which can host 300 people, like a special space for talking. So we will invite different important representative educators or expertise. They can make presentation in Shanghai or maybe online to this local society. And every year there could be like 20, 30 events. I think that is also a special branch we want to set up. I think it's quite diverse, and I think we want to find different people who can in charge a different part of it. So Digital Future is not just a platform for a conference, but it's like education. But the most important thing is a non-profit platform. But we want to make it in different hierarchies, including the very young students, and also including very good specialists who can give us very academic research in the future. So everything is going on, but most importantly is quite different to the original system. I think the new infrastructure and new knowledge will give us new opportunity. That's the special thing I want to highlight.
Yeah, I want to echo Philip's point that, Philip and I might have been the catalyst that initiated this process, but it's very much a kind of emergent phenomenon. And this summer, we depended on the goodwill of a whole bunch of people who, in a spirit of solidarity, contributed towards this. And, you know, the organizing committee, the organizer, I wouldn't even call it committee, those who are willing to kind of to contribute to it were just astonishing. I mean, we're really, really grateful. And we've somehow continued that with a new group coming in to help out. And it's emerging into something that is very special. One of the discussions we've had is whether one could even imagine the possibility of making this into a kind of a degree of some kind, but we've decided that maybe that's too much. That's way beyond what we could be doing. But what we see ourselves as doing is precisely as you say, Melissa, offering a kind of content, you know. And I guess the most important thing I heard recently was Philippe Morel. And Philippe Morel was telling me from France, he said, you've got to imagine, be careful what I say here, you've got to imagine what dinosaurs they have teaching in universities and schools of architecture in France, you know. This kind of thing is really a godsend to any student in France, you know. And I think that's essentially what we can do, you know. It's a bit like a TED Talk from that point of view. It's content that's available online for free and everyone can access it. And it's in a way, we see it as a kind of auxiliary or supplemental form of education that's informal, but it's there. And you know, I think that's the interesting kind of question. We were also discussing whether these particular debates themselves should be kind of they should be compiled as in book form in some ways. But it seems to me actually there's a new kind of genre, the kind of the pod kind of talk that's emerging, and this fits into that. And maybe in the future, this will be the source of information, you know, rather than necessarily going to a library or something. There will be these, you know, these kind of online discussions that are based on speech rather than text. We don't know, but I mean, the main thing is to see. I mean, there's something that's opened up, and it's really astonishing. The possibilities are amazing, and we want to see what we can do. And you know, I just want to say, I want to thank everyone who was part of the organization this summer, who contributed to teaching, and also the new team that's kind of taking up with it with such enthusiasm for everything they've done, because I think there is a new chapter, a new kind of model that's emerging, and it is literally an emergent phenomenon. We don't know quite where it's going, completely bottom up in many ways, completely bottom up. And it's a very democratic organization, and it's democratizing the whole of the architectural discipline. So I'm delighted by the whole event.
I have one last question for you. And it's kind of related to kind of the sense of place. And so, Philip, you were just mentioning having this network of kind of distributed centers that would be places still for people to go to kind of get this knowledge or to come together. And so having had an event for 9 years that was, you know, very strongly tied to a place, to a host institution, and all of the great advantages of such a great host that it is. What was, you know, with kind of what did this year, by opening it up to the global audience and being distributed, was there something that was translated well to the digital platform that was that sense of place? Is there something that was lost, and thus there's that need to kind of come back together and have both platforms? And does that lead to a parallel but bifurcating future for DigitalFUTURES Shanghai and DigitalFUTURES World?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. The most important, I named the future knowledge system is kinds of non-local locality. So what does this mean? I think the digital platform, including Zoom, give us a special infrastructure system. We can learning and communicate with different people, but there's still people we are living in the physical world. I think the world, including some locality, some very local environment, which you mentioned, like a sense of place. It's kind of a feeling in Shanghai. We're looking forward to invite all the specialists from the world, because we're learning from the world, and we're trying to set up something for the future. So that is the locality, the local atmosphere here. But the digital communication give us a new possibility with this kind of non-locality, but the sense of place goes to a kind of global online platform. that will totally redefine the education system globally. For example, I think in UVA, I think people pay a very big number of maybe for the international students, but actually a lot of new knowledge, if you can learning or you can learning from the global platform, then how we should reorganize our education courses. Because the future education I'm imagining, I think partly is based on how you organize knowledge globally. It's not based on how the knowledge in the certain people, but based on it's kind of reorganization of the knowledge. So this kind of background gave us new special thinking on how to address the non-local global knowledge to a locality, a local sense of place. Yeah. I think it should be a new integration of this kind of knowledge system. The content is most important, but the future reproduction of knowledge is booming right now. But how fast and how big numbers of new knowledge can coming out is always how we organize it. So I think it's a critical question if the content is enough to support this platform, and also it's a critical question how we can address our future education into this platform. So I think it's still a big uncertainty to us, but we're imagining this kind of, I believe the code is a law. Sometimes we set a very important code is a nonprofit platform, and this kind of new democracy learning knowledge from each other. And also everyone want to contribute to this platform. That is enough. That is enough. And I think I'm quite open to all kinds of different people if you're interested in that. And the most important, we want to set it by different branch, different hierarchies. So the things I want to highlight is the education, academic education is still the most important thing we believe, and how to reorganize this kind of knowledge into the global, future global, that is including online, offline. So that is something maybe new you can hear us.
Actually, there was an interesting point, and it was made by either Meta Thompson or Aleti Markopoulou in the discussion that Akim chaired about, well, maybe next summer we could do a kind of a sort of multi-nodal operation that is kind of going on the same time in parallel, and one in ICD, one in Zurich, and so on. Maybe. I mean, our ambition has always been to make this international, and but the trouble has been that my students from Florida, it would cost them $2,000 just to fly to Shanghai, and we ended up getting all these applicants from the UCL partner, but they were always Chinese students coming home in some ways, and it wasn't this for the first time it's actually been international. But I've got to say that there is something to my mind, and maybe Philip works on fabrication, I'm more in the kind of the cerebral realm of ideas, but I'm finding there's some very strange things happening. For example, when I'm in a discussion here, I was in a discussion with someone with Philippe Morel in France, in Paris, a couple of hours ago. I almost feel like these are kind of spaces, as it were. They're mental spaces, and one is negotiating these different sort of mental spaces in a certain sort of way. And I'm also discovering, for example, part of our team, Digital Futures team, I've never met them, but I really feel like got to know them through this platform in an amazing way. So, and there's something also, one of my students in Florida came up with this comment, I have a 110 person lecture I give twice a week. And one of the students, he kind of butted in, right? It was great. And he butted in with a fantastic comment. And then he said, what I like about this Zoom thing is I feel like I'm in the front row of a lecture hall every single session. And so what we did, we reconfigured this 110 person lecture into the 110 person seminar. And it's interesting because then you realize it's not about the content provider. It's more about the kind of what emerges out of the conversation between different people. And that, of course, is what we were trying to do in the panel discussions we were setting up, bringing, for example, Wan Yu He in Shenzhen, China, with the guys from SpaceMaker AI in Oslo, Norway. Unbelievable to kind of straddle that sort of world. And I wasn't sure if they were going to fight because they're big rivals. And actually, they decided they're going to collaborate. So it's the idea of actually bringing the world together, really, which I think, and I'm just amazed by the possibility of what this platform can do. And as I said before, we were talking about digital future, but suddenly it was thrust upon us. So the digital future was here, and now it's a question of. I mean, I literally feel like it's the Wild West. There's a whole new terrain, and we've got to explore that and make it work for the benefit of everybody across the globe. So that's the ambition, to spread knowledge and bring people together, which is always our ambition. But somehow we've been afforded these new possibilities now.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a great comment to end on. A new type of global citizenship that we're jet setting in Zoom. But thank you both so much for this conversation. It's been really wonderful, and I'm really excited to see where Digital Futures goes in the future.
Can I just also thank you, I'm sure on behalf of Philip and myself, for the award. It's wonderful to know these are recognized. We don't do them for awards, but it's nice to know that people out there know about that. And thank you.
It's fantastic work. Congratulations.
And thanks a lot to the listener. Yeah. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.